जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा जय कुंज जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना बल्लभा जय गिरिवरा धारी जय गिरिवर धारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा जय गिरिवरा धारी जय गिरिवर धारी जय यशोदनंदन जय ब्रज जनरंजन जय यशोदनंदन जय ब्रज जनरंजना जय यमुना तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Prahangsa Parivrajgacharya Astotar Shishmat His Divine Grace Abhay Naranda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajgacharya Astotar Shishmat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Anant Kori Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Suru Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dham Marpanavi Dham Ki Shri Shri Radha Partha Sarathi Ki. All glories to seven devotees. All glories to seven devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. English here. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Very nice to be back here in Delhi among such great souls. I feel like a pigeon among swans. So thank you for your very kind love and acceptance. So today we will read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Text 27 and 28. So both verses had small purports, so we were doing two verses today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll read text 27 and then we'll repeat text 28. Dhinmam var vigarhitam sadbhir dushkritam kulakajjalam hitva balam satim yoham surapim masatim agam. Dhinman vigarhitam sadbhir dushkritam kulakajjalam hitva balam satim yoham surapim masatim agam. Bhikmam. So इसको हिंदी में भी पढ़ना है कि बस इंग्लिश में? Okay, that's it. All condemnation upon me. Vigarhitam, condemned. Sadbhir, by honest men. Dushkritam, who has committed sinful acts. Kuja Kajjalam, who has defamed the family tradition. Hitva, by giving up. Bala, a young wife. Satim, chaste. Yaha, who, aham, I, surapim, with a woman accustomed to drinking wine, asatim, unchaste, agam, I had sexual intercourse. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Alas, all condemnation upon me! I acted so sinfully that I degraded my family tradition. Indeed, I gave up my chaste and beautiful young wife to have sexual intercourse with a fallen prostitute accustomed to drinking wine. All condemnation upon me. Purport. This is the mentality of one who is becoming a pure devotee. When one is elevated to the platform of devotional service by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master, one first regrets his past sinful activities. This helps one advance in spiritual life. The Vishnudutas had given Ajamal the chance to become a pure devotee. And the duty of a pure devotee is to regret his past sinful activities in illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. Not only should one give up his past bad habits, but he must always regret his past sinful acts. This is the standard of pure devotion. Very nice verse. Now I'll read the next verse and then discuss both verses. 6:228. Please repeat. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Aho mayadhuna tyaktva. Aho mayadhuna tyakta. Akritagena nichava. Akritagena nichava. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Aho mayadhuna tyakta. Akritigyena nichava. Tapasvino. Aho mayadhuna tyaktva. Kritigena nichava. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Aho mayadhuna tyaktva. Akriti nichava. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Nanyad bandhu tapasvino. Omayadhana tyaktva. Pitaro. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Aho mayadhana tyaktva. Akritagyena nichava. Vriddhavanatho pitaro. Nanya bandhu tapasvino. Akrite chava. Vridhavanatho Pitaro Nanya Bandhu Tapasvino Aho Mayadhuna Tyaktva Krite Gyena Nichava. Mataji's. Vridhavanatho Pitaro Nanya Bandhu Tapasvino Aho Mayadhuna Tyaktva Akritagyena Nichavad. Vridhavanatho Pitaro Nanyad Bandhu Tapasvino Aho Mayadhuna Tyaktva Akritagyena Nichavad. Vridho, old, Anatho, who had no other person to look after their comforts. Pitaro, my father and mother. Na anya bandhu, who had no other friend. Tapasvino, who underwent great difficulties. Aho, alas, maya, by me. Adhuna, at that moment. Tyakto, were given up. Akritagyena, ungrateful. Nichavat, like the most abominable low-class person. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My father and mother were old and had no other son or friend to look after them. Because I did not care of them, they lived with great difficulty. Alas, like an abominable low-class man, I ungratefully left them in that condition. Please repeat. My father and mother, who were old and had no other son or friend to look after them, because I did not care of them, they lived with great difficulty. Alas, like an abominable low-class man, I ungratefully left them in that condition. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, everyone has a responsibility for taking care of brahmanas, old men, women, children, and cows. This is the duty of everyone, especially an upper-class person. Because of his association with a prostitute, Ajamil abandoned all his duties. Regretting this, Ajamil now considered himself quite fallen. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So both these verses are very instructive. Ajamil now has met the Vishnu Dutas. He has been given a second chance, a second life. And in text 27, Ajamil is saying, he's remembering, in both of these texts, he's remembering his past sinful activities. He's remembering all the things that he did after his fall down with the prostitute. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that he is very regretful of his past sinful activities. He is very, very sorry. He's regretting his past sinful activities. So, generally, if we read Srila Prabhupada's books, we find that lamentation or regret or hankering is considered in the mode of ignorance. If you are lamenting, then you're in the mode of ignorance. But here we see that Srila Prabhupada says that a pure devotee, the standard of devotion is to regret one's past sinful activities. So the question is why? Why should the devotee, now the devotee has left this material life behind, he's come to Krishna, why should he regret his past sinful activities? What will he gain? Right? I mean, this seems like lamentation, material lamentation, which we don't encourage. But the devotee is very regretful. In fact, this is one of the qualities of a devotee in the Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada writes, one of the qualities of a devotee is that he greatly regrets being an offender. A devotee who's on the spontaneous level, he greatly regrets being an offender and for wasting time not serving Krishna. This is a quote from Nectar of Devotion, chapter 9. The devotee is in the mood of Dainya. Bodhika is saying, my dear Lord, there's no sinful living entity who is more of a sinner than myself, nor is there a greater offender than myself. So I am greatly sinful and offensive. When I come to confess my sinful activities before you, I am ashamed. Right? So this is the quality of a devotee, but why? Why must a devotee regret his past sinful activities? I was thinking maybe someone can suggest an answer, just so we can, yes. Right. Very nice, yes. So Prabhu is saying that the devotee is regretful because he loves the Lord and he knows that he gave great pain to the Lord, and therefore because of that pain he feels that regretful that to my beloved Lord I turned away from him. Very nice, yes.
One of the things I thought was that it helps one stay humble in Krishna consciousness. You said how we've been the journey we have taken. It helps us stay a little bit more well-grounded while we are practicing. And it will help us level out the stress and stuff a little bit more in a more sane manner because you've been through this. The second part is that I think it will help us stay grateful for the wonderful life that we've got now.
Very nice. So 2 points here. The first one, that being regretful keeps us humble. That then if we regret our past sinful activities, then we will remain humble, remembering that how sinful I was. His Holiness Ganapati Swami, who preaches in America, he once mentioned this. He said that for us devotees in the West, it's very easy to remain humble. Because before coming to Srila Prabhupada, we did every sinful activity you can imagine. Every sinful activity. And Prabhupada, he pulled us up from the deepest hell and brought us to Krishna. So he was mentioning out of his humility that, you Indians, you come at least from a pious background, from a nice background. But we come from such a bad background. So just remembering that keeps a person very humble. Yes. And the second point that Prabhu mentioned, which in the next verse is spoken about, is gratefulness. That it keeps us grateful when we are remembering our past activities. We're grateful for what we have. So all these answers are very true, correct, completely correct. Another reason that Srila Prabhupada mentions, the reason why the devotee is regretful and regrets his sinful activities, because this way he does not perform them again. Right? Just like if we make a mistake, if we do something wrong, and we're not regretful of it, then we'll do it again. And this is why the whole legal system is there. Right? They send people to prison so that they learn how to be regretful. Because the criminal thinks, I didn't do anything wrong. I was justified. Even there's this one story, even this killer, this murderer, he was in prison and he was crying. He said, the whole world was very unkind to me. What could I have done? I only did the, what I could have done. He had no regrets. Right? So the punishment, the system of punishment teaches a person to be regretful. So a devotee of the Lord is regretful and remembers and regrets his past activities, not because he wants to enjoy his material life again. That is in the mode of ignorance. But because he regrets performing his material activities so that he never performs them again. This is a very great lesson here that is being told. And we see this in the lives of the great devotees, like Jagai and Madhai. When Jagai and Madhai, they offended Lord Nityananda, then they begged his forgiveness, and Lord Nityananda forgave them. But then after that, they did not just join the Sankirtan movement and say, okay, everything is good, Lord Nityananda is so merciful. But no, there's a famous Madhai Ghat in Navadvip, right? Where after that, for the rest of their life, or many years after that, they resided at the Ghat. And there they would serve all the devotees who would come to the Ghat. They would clean the Ghat, simply out of their regret for the offense that they had made to Lord Nityananda. Same thing here we see Ajamal. That Ajamal is very regretful of his past sinful activities. So Srila Prabhupada here is mentioning that first thing here is being mentioned, he's very regretful for leaving his dharmic wife, his dharma patni, and instead going with a prostitute. And in this way, destroying his family, destroying his marriage, and causing great pain to others. Right? So this is why our Shastra say no illicit sex. Why? One may think, well, no one is being, why is Krishna have a problem? No one is being hurt. This is all voluntary. Because by illicit sex life, many, many people are hurt. Most important thing that the Bhagavad Gita tells us is Varna Sankara. Right? Varna Sankara. Through illicit sex life, there's unwanted progeny. And that unwanted progeny becomes the criminals, all the troublemakers in society. Because this is a fact, psychological fact. Because no one loves them, they're never loved, they're never cared for in their life. They become the criminals, and they are the result of illicit sex life. By illicit sex life, someone in the relationship becomes very hurt. Right? Their life becomes destroyed. In America, every other child is of a broken home. Right? So many people commit suicide due to illicit sex life, due to being breakups, marriages. There's actually in Europe, there's one bridge called the Lovers Bridge. It's a Lovers Bridge, and it's when there's a breakup, then it's the bridge that people go to jump off of to kill themselves. It's called the Lovers Bridge. So people say, oh, what is wrong? This Western society is so nice, freedom. This is no commitment. Yes, everything is wrong. Everything is wrong because there's so much suffering and pain that comes as a result of this irresponsible life. Right? And now in India it's widespread. This is not just an American thing. In the universities, colleges, students are doing everything just like in the West. So this is very shameful life. This is a life without dharma, without culture, without spirituality. And this is being regretted by Ajamal. Jai Shishirada Partha Sarathi Ki. Now in the next verse, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that there are five members of society that must be protected. Prabhupada is saying, according to Vedic civilization, everyone has a responsibility for taking care of brahmanas, old men, women, children, and cows. Notice Prabhupada says brahmanas, old men. He doesn't say old women. He says brahmanas, old men, women of all ages, children of all ages, or children, and cows. The cows, the most offenseless creatures, right? So, this is Vedic civilization. When these five members of society or parts of society are protected, then society flourishes. Then there's real society. Then there's a happy society. In Vedic society, these 5 members are protected. In modern society, Kali Yuga society means that these 5 members are abused, are killed. First one is the Brahmanas, right? There's no Brahmanas, there's no teachers. Now, in today's society, teaching is not, being a Brahmana is not a very glamorous profession. People want to be administrators because the teachers are just workers. They're not seen anymore as of importance. The Brahmana society, those who are priests, those who are the teachers, they're no longer respected. Now, those who are businessmen, who have wealth, only money is respected. Then the old men. In America, I teach ethics. One of the subjects I teach is ethics. A big topic in ethics is these nursing homes, right? Which even in the modern society, people are asking, is it ethical? Is it ethical? Because these nursing homes are like human warehouses. They're human warehouses where they put the old people just to leave them to die, right? And very painful. There's no one comes and visits them. They have no voice in society. They don't see the children. They're just living, waiting to die, living amongst old people. And there's so much abuse because no one goes and visits them. There's so much abuse that goes on there of the old men. In America, you won't see old people on the street. Very few, because they're all in the nursing homes. When my grandfather, when he came, first thing he noticed, he asked us, where are all the old people? There's no old people here. So they're all in the nursing home. So for old people, this civilization, so-called advanced civilization, is hellish. This again is happening in India now. Now in India also have nursing homes in very advanced cities. One Indian lady, she was telling me that she visited in front of this nursing home. And there, this old man, he was boarding the bus, very well dressed. You could see he came from a very high class family, very wealthy. And he offered some money to the busman, and it was less than the ticket. It was just like a few rupees. And the bus person said, this is not enough. And he said, this is all I have. My sons have stolen all my money. They have taken all my money. I live here in the nursing home. This is all I have. You please accept this. Right? So this is modern civilization. There's a lady who was on the street. She was in front of this nursing home. She had fallen down. And she went to pick her up. And the lady said, all my sons, they've deserted me. I'm sitting here just to die. Don't pick me up. I'm waiting here for death. So in the land of Dharma and the land of Vedic culture, we're imitating the West. And there's nursing homes now here also for the old men and women. Then the women. Actually in Vedic culture, the women were protected. They were cared for, they were respected. But in modern civilization, women are seen as sex objects rather than as mothers. They're not protected, they're not cared for. Right? And then we have the children. Prabhupada says, in the womb itself, the children are killed. The children are not protected. And finally, the cows. There's one very nice purport of Srila Prabhupada where Prabhupada says that the most offenseless creature is the cow. Because the cow does not take anything, only grass, but every single part of his body is valuable for human life. And this is why the symbol of Kali Yuga is cow killing. Because we're taking the most offenseless creature and we're killing it. And this is therefore the symbol. This is why when Kali comes, then Parikshit Maharaj, the first thing that he sees is this cow killing. Right? So in our modern materialistic society, these 5 things are destroyed. In Vaishnav society, these 5 things are protected and maintained. And Prabhupada says, this is the duty of everyone, especially an upper class person. Because of his association with a prostitute, Ajamal abandoned all of his duties. Regretting this, Ajamal now considered himself quite fallen. Right? So this is, Prabhupada is saying that this is true culture. Culture is not wealth, culture is not money, culture is not technology. But this is what it means to be an upper class person, a high class person, is not known by one's caste. It's like there's so much casteism. High class is known by how one performs one's prescribed duties. And then here in this verse, Ajamil says, he speaks about gratitude. I ungratefully left them in that condition. So the final point that Prabhupada mentions here is one of gratitude. That how the quality of a devotee, the symbol of bhakti, is gratefulness or gratitude. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says how humility, and this verse of text 3 of Shikshashtaka, he says humility is the gateway into Krishna's pastimes. This third verse of the Shikshashtaka, this is how Krishna's pastimes become revealed to us. And then our acharyas further explain that gratitude is the bridge from the material world to the spiritual world. Gratitude, right? Why? Because gratitude and humility go together. They're one and the same. Unless we are grateful for what we have, then how can we be humble? If we are not grateful, then how can we be humble towards someone? If we have everything, if we possess everything, if we feel that we don't need anyone's help or no one has helped me, then why will we be humble towards anyone else? So I was in New Vrindavan, and there I met Varsana Maharaj, and we were speaking, and I asked him, I said, Maharaj, what is the instruction you can give to us? How can we progress? And he said, this is my realization. He said that gratitude is a bridge from the material world to the spiritual world. Because when we are grateful, then we can also remain alive in Krishna consciousness. Right? As soon as a devotee is in the temple and he starts thinking, what is this? These devotees here, they're just ordinary people. The prasadam is tasteless. Nothing is good. When we start to have these feelings, then our devotion wavers. Sometimes devotees leave also, because the feeling of gratitude leaves. So Ajamil here is saying that I was ungrateful to my parents. I was ungrateful to my superiors who took care of me, and I did not take care of them when there was nothing. They did not have any protection. We see this example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the example, Prahlad Maharaj is described how Prahlad Maharaj, his father Hiranyakashipu, was a great demon, such a great demon. And he did so many horrible things to Prahlad. Prahlad, he threw him off of the cliff. He tried to, with an elephant, stomp him, right? He tried to kill him with his own hands. He tried to poison him, put him in a pit of snakes. And Prahlad went through so much suffering because of his father. But at the end, and during his time also, Prahlad only remembered those few moments of affection that Hiranyakashipu gave to Prahlad. He just remembered that my father, he loved me, he gave me some affection, so I should be grateful towards him. He gave me birth. And therefore, at the end, when Nrsingadev comes, he prays to Lord Nrsingadev that, oh my Lord, please liberate my father, the same person who tried to kill him. We see this in the example of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is going back to Godhead. He's a liberated devotee, right? He has no material attachments. He is not a materialistic person attached to his family members. But when he's going back to Godhead, the plane is there, he's ready to go. He says, no, I will not step on this plane. Why? He says, first, my mother, she should go, because she gave me spiritual knowledge, due to which I was able to find the Lord. And he sees first, she's going on the plane, then he stands, then he steps onto that plane to go back to the spiritual world. So this is the quality of a devotee of the Lord, a pure devotee of the Lord, that they minimize the mistakes of others and they maximize their good qualities. They overlook the offenses of others and they maximize their positive qualities because they're so grateful for anything that they have done for them. And the consciousness of the materialist is that he maximizes the bad side of others. Right? How dare this person said this to me? How dare they did this to me? This is material, Kali Yuga consciousness, quarrel and hypocrisy. How dare they said this to me? And they forget all the good that they did. They forget, they find a reason to hate the other person, forgetting all the good that all the benefits that they received from that person. So this is a great lesson. And we must remember that the spiritual master is also the father. He's also the father. So the disciple must always be very grateful to the spiritual master, because the spiritual master has given us spiritual birth. The spiritual master accepts the karma of the disciple. So the spiritual master must be given utmost respect. Even if the parents, the spiritual master, even if there's some wrong that is done. The ISKCON Sridhar Swami, who is no longer on the planet, when he was on the planet, I had a few moments of his association, he told me two things that are very nice. He told me a story when he joined Krishna consciousness. Then he came to the temple and he was new to Krishna consciousness, and he came in and first thing in his mind, he was finding things difficult to digest. So he's listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture, and Srila Prabhupada is giving the lecture very nicely, and he was thinking, this is a great mystic yogi. This is finally, I found a great yogi like this. And he was seeing, is he a great mystic yogi? A little challenging. And then Srila Prabhupada was giving class, and then Prabhupada cleared his throat like this, and he had this kamandalu next to him, and Prabhupada, he spit in the kamandalu. And Sridhar Maharaj, in his mind, he thought, if he's a pure devotee, if he's a great yogi, why is he spitting? A great yogi should not spit. What is this? And then Srila Prabhupada, like reading his mind, because Prabhupada is a pure devotee, he looks into the audience. He looks straight at Sridhar Maharaj and he says, if you want to see Krishna, you will see Krishna. If you want to see fault, then you will see fault. So that is the point, actually, right? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right? If you want to see good in someone, we'll see all the good things in that person. And if you want to see faults, that person is a umbrella of good qualities. We'll see the faults. We'll find the faults, and we will do that. So if we want to see Krishna, then we cannot see faults. This is the point. This is what Prabhupada was saying, that if you want to see Krishna, then you can see Krishna. If you want to see faults, then you will only see faults. And the second thing Sridhar Swami told me, he said that when you are dealing with devotees, especially senior devotees, advanced devotees, but any devotee, he says, even if you are right, you are still wrong. Right? If you offend them, even if you are right, you are still wrong. Why? Because Krishna does not see who is right and wrong. He sees how did we make the other devotee feel. Did that devotee feel offended? Did that devotee feel pain? And therefore, we will get that reaction. Just like the story of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami was once, I think it was Rupa Goswami, he was deeply in meditation, right? He was engaged in his bhajan. And in his meditation on Krishna's pastimes, he started laughing. Just laughing like people laugh. Like on Krishna's pastimes. Krishna was doing something very funny in that pastime. And at that time, an old sadhu who was hunchback was walking by. And this sadhu was very hunchback. Well, he's almost horizontal when he walked. So he was a little self-conscious because people would laugh at him. So when Rupa Goswami laughed, the sadhu thought that, oh, he's laughing at me. So he became very offended and he walked away. And at that moment, Rupa Goswami's meditation on Krishna broke. He could not see Krishna anymore. So then Rupa Goswami asked, why is this the case? How is it that my meditation on Krishna could be broken? He's a pure devotee of the Lord. How is this possible? Something must have happened. So he asked the nearby devotees what had happened. And then he could understand that this hunchback devotee was walking by, and for no reason, I mean, the devotee should not have taken offense. But for no reason the devotee had taken offense. And for this reason he could understand his meditation on Krishna was broken. So then Rupa Goswami went and resolved the situation. He spoke with that devotee and explained the situation. And then again his meditation on Krishna was revived. So this point of being grateful is very important in our spiritual life. And one who is grateful, especially for the mercy of the Lord throughout his life, that person can go back home, back to Godhead. And this is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is authorized, or you could say the proof of this statement is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This very famous verse is there. Tattenukampam shushamikshamano bhunjanayevatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapurбhir vidadhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Srila Prabhupada says, translation, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So this is Prabhupada's translation. You may ask, where is gratitude in this? So here, Prabhupada explains that when suffering comes, when a devotee does two things. One is that he waits for the mercy of the Lord patiently while suffering his reactions. And secondly, he offers obeisances to the Lord. These two things. Then, if he does these two things, then liberation becomes his rightful claim. And furthermore, Prabhupada explains that not only is a devotee patiently suffering the results of his past activities, offering obeisances, which is humility to the Lord. Yes, I deserve this. Yes, I am fallen. You have given me less than what I deserve. But furthermore, the devotee is grateful for the suffering that Krishna has given. And this verse is saying that one who can be grateful for the suffering that Krishna gives us, that person, liberation becomes his rightful claim. Not only does he accept it, not only does he suffer through it, but he is grateful for that suffering. That is then pure devotion to Lord Krishna. So this verse is very apt. It is very it's very relevant. It is a big topic in our movement, right? How devotees should relate with their parents, how they should relate with their family members. And here Ajamil is, as the greatest devotee, he is setting the example that how Prahlad Maharaj also, that even if our parents are demons, the devotee is still very grateful, because the devotee knows that this is the nature of the devotee, that this parent has provided me a body by which I can serve the Lord. So the devotee's mood is very generous, very benevolent. And through this also the devotee preaches to others. It's not just that we do this for ourselves, but also to set an example for the world. Just like to give you, last thing I'll mention, an example. In America and in much of the world, the fastest growing religion is Mormonism. They're like a shoot off of Christianity. And their philosophy is very odd. The Christians don't accept it, and America is primarily a Christian country. But it's a fasting growing religion in America. And people say, why? Because Mormons, they have a culture of very good families. They're very good at this family culture. So people see them and they're very touched. Oh, these people, because in a culture where families break up all the time, they're very impressed. These people have very good families. They're very, proper in their behavior, nicely dressed and nicely, behaving, all these things. So just by that, they join them. Though they have no philosophy, no philosophy really to offer. So similarly, Prabhupada said that most of the society, they will join Krishna consciousness through the culture of Krishna consciousness. He said something like 70%, 80% will join through the culture of Krishna consciousness. Only 20% will join through the philosophy. So when outsiders, when they see the culture of Krishna consciousness, that look how nice these people are, how ideal they are in their dealings with everyone, with every living being, then they will become very encouraged to become devotees, because that is the walk of the talk, right? We can say nice philosophy, but when people see that this is the devotee, this is his character, this is who a devotee is, then they become very touched. Then they see this is the living example of who we are. And so I'll just end with 2 verses from Lord Shri Krishna, who Krishna speaks these verses to his fathers, Vasudeva and Devaki, after he's killed Kansa in chapter 10, text 45, canto 10, chapter 45. Krishna tells his parents, he's very regretful that his parents had to go to prison because of him. Right? He says, you had to go to prison because of me. So Krishna says that I feel I was a very inept son, but now finally I've come to free you. So Krishna says, text 5, with one's body one can acquire all goals of life, and it is one's parents who give the body birth and sustenance. Therefore no mortal man can repay his debt to his parents, even if he serves them for a full lifetime of 100 years. A son who, though able to do so, fails to provide for his parents with his physical resources and wealth, is forced after his death to eat his own flesh. So, this is Lord Krishna here. So I'll stop here. I know there will be much discussion. If there's any comments, corrections, suggestions, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class. Very nice class. My question is, you had mentioned in the class about that when dealing with senior devotees, that even if they're wrong, they're right. Now my question in this regard is there any practical or philosophical limit to this? In other words, can they just keep being wrong with you and other people, and then that's supposed to be okay, or is there any actual limit to this?
Yes, very nice, very practical question. So what Sridhar Maharaj actually said, he said, in terms of us offending them, he said, even if you are right, you are still wrong. So his point was not that they are still right, even if they're wrong. His point is, in terms of us offending them, even if we are right, we are still wrong. Meaning that if a senior devotee does something wrong, we are still not justified in offending them. In other words, and Jayaveta Maharaj has a very nice class on this as well that he gives, very wonderfully. He says there's the devotee takes other means of correcting them. The devotee will go to another senior devotee and say, you please speak with this senior devotee and you kindly adjust the situation, you fix the situation. The devotee will not directly go and offend them. Now, Prabhupada said that a devotee never gives up common sense. So, if it's a life and death situation, there's a limit to it, right? One may have to protect oneself. If there's, a very extreme situation, one may, do what is practical. But generally speaking, in normal circumstances, his message was that even if we feel we're right, we have to be careful, because we may still. Prabhupada gave one example. This is an example to further illustrate this point. He says that, Prabhupada once said that even if you see Brahmananda with a cigarette in his mouth, still you should not criticize him because of the service that he's done. So here's someone, a devotee, who's taking intoxication. And if we go and criticize him, we are right. He should not be taking intoxication, but we are still wrong because we are not the ones to do that. Another example that Jayadvaita Maharaj gave is that Srila Prabhupada told very clearly that we should not associate so much with his god brothers. Prabhupada did not approve of their activities. So one disciple of Srila Prabhupada goes to Srila Prabhupada and says, Srila Prabhupada, your god brothers, some of them are such rascals. And Srila Prabhupada stops and he says, I can say that, but you should never say that. You have no right to say that. He is very, very disturbed, very angry with the devotee. So this is the point, that unlike material life, in material life, if you're right, you're right. But in spiritual life, because the devotee is very dear to Krishna, we have to remember, well, this devotee is dear to Krishna. Though they are acting badly now, but they're still dear to Krishna, so I have to adjust the situation. I have to work around the situation. His Holiness Hanumat Preshak Maharaj says that the devotee ducks Maya. He does not try to fight Maya. That is Krishna's job. He comes and kills the demons. But the devotee ducks Maya. He avoids the situation. He works around it. And this is also, Jayadvaita Maharaj mentions Vedic culture, that, you know, if in just Vedic culture, if someone, a grandfather, father, they do something wrong, the children would not speak up and criticize them. Now in modern society, they call them by their first name. Dave, come here, you know. But they would not criticize them directly. They would work around it, because this is how to, because there's both things there, right? They have to be corrected, but there's also gratitude. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he corrected, yet he was also grateful for his father. Another very nice example is Maharaj Yudhishthir, right? To Dhritarashtra, he was at the after Kurukshetra. Prabhupada says he knew his duty, so he went to Dhritarashtra. And though Dhritarashtra had given him so much suffering, he still let him stay in his palace, just like a member of the family. Why? Because he knew his duty. On one hand, he did the wrong thing, he had to fix the situation, but on the other hand, he was grateful to his uncle, because his uncle raised him. And this is what the devotee feels. Does that answer? Yes, thank you. Another question? Yeah?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. As you saw, like in the second verse of today, which is 28, Ajamila is regretting for abandoning the parents, and not looking after them, and not being able to provide or taking proper care of them. So he is regretting for that. Now seeing the very case in our life too, especially those who are the single sons have done the same. Now giving an argument to this, that we are done for the higher purpose. But if you see that this is the result, if you see the cause of it, it is being condemned in the previous verse, that I fell in love with the prostitute. So he is condemning that separately, and not caring the parents is condemned another separately. So are we not condemnable for the things that we have done?
So I'm not sure if I followed everything, but one thing Prabhupada writes, and maybe this response, he says actually, this is, I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita he writes, he says, those who are in the renounced order of life, like the brahmacharis and the sannyasis, they actually, because of their full dedication to the Lord, because they actually have given up sense enjoyment, and your point how these two are connected, they do not have the responsibility towards their parents to in the same way that the grahastha does, that the householder does. If you are dedicated to the Lord, if you've given up material enjoyment, now your only duty is towards the Lord. 100%, that person has dedicated their life. So they know, they have the faith that Krishna will take care. But he then says, but if one is a grahastha, then one has to fulfill his duty. Why? Because then one has accepted sense enjoyment. Then one cannot say, oh, this is too much trouble, or they're coming in the middle of my spiritual life, so I should not take care of them. Well, if you're so serious about your spiritual life, then why you have accepted family life? Why do you have a wife or children? Then you've dedicated your life to Krishna. So there's different duties for different ashrams. And if we accept the path of sense enjoyment, meaning to some degree, not that the grahastha is sense enjoyment, but he, in a regulated way, is accepting the grahastha ashram, then they have a greater duty. And therefore, it's actually the duty of the grahasthas. They have the Vaishya grahasthas, or no, just the grahasthas. Grahasthas, they are supposed to nurture the rest of the society. They are supposed to take care of the parents of the brahmacharis. They are supposed to take care of their own parents. They are supposed to take care of the brahmanas, the women, the children, the cows, because they have taken chosen that responsibility. You see, like in the Gita, Krishna says, right, one who's 100% dedicated to the Lord, that person has no duty. And Prabhupada says in the purport, but he says, but if one is 100% dedicated, then you have no duty. So we cannot cheat the Lord, right? So if we're not 100%, we do have duties. And even those who are 100%, to put an example for others, they will still do their duty. Just like we see even sannyasis in our movement, when their parents are passing away, they will go and spend time with them in their final months. Indradumna Maharaj did this, Radhanath Maharaj did this, so many Maharajas we know they did this. They went at that time. Even though they have complete faith in the Lord. But if we're not 100%, and we are enjoying material life, then we cannot say, no, this is too much trouble, this is not. In fact, it is our duty as householders to pick up the material aspect of those who have dedicated their lives fully to Krishna consciousness. So yes, so this is maybe this answers your question. Okay.
Hindi, you follow Hindi? I will speak Hindi.
अच्छा हिंदी में उनके माता जी का एक क्वेश्चन है वो
So somebody can translate into that language from Hindi. अच्छा उनका क्वेश्चन है.
So some I cannot hear. So I teach in a university outside. So that's where I teach ethics.
Right, ethics is an important part of anyone's life, whether Krishna conscious or outside.
Yes.
What are we talking ethics in relationship to Krishna consciousness? Are we talking etiquettes? What are we talking here?
So this is actually the Bhagavatam is giving the highest ethics, right? I mean, the nature of the example of these devotees, like Ajamil, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, they are so ethical. Maharaj Yudhishthir, they are so ethical that mundane people cannot even rise to that platform. Right? They're so perfect in their dharma, so ethical. Dharma is in the mode of goodness, right? Ethics is in the mode of goodness. It's not spiritual. But still, it's described that dharma, which is the Sanskrit word for ethics in some ways, dharma pleases the Lord. Dharma pleases Krishna. It's said that Maharaj Yudhishthir, because he was dharma personified, was very, very dear to the Lord. And he was so advanced, so exalted, he would not even touch the ground when he would walk. Why? Because he was fixed in dharma, and this greatly pleased the Lord. So we go beyond the mode of goodness, but goodness is the launching point. And spiritual and transcendence in some ways also includes goodness. So in the normal circumstance, Krishna is very pleased by dharma. When we follow etiquette, when we follow ethics, when we follow the codes of dharma, Krishna asked Yudhishthira to lie because he was always truthful. And the fact that Yudhishthira was truthful was very nice. Krishna was pleased by that. The Bahulavan, right? I think Bahulavan, where the cow kept her promise to the tiger. Krishna was so pleased by that cow just because she kept her promise that he awarded, the whole forest name became Bahulavan by the name of that cow. So Krishna is pleased by the principles of dharma because Krishna is the one who establishes dharma. Right? In the Gita, Krishna talks about the austerities of the body, mind, and words. These are all ethical principles. He says they're in the mode of goodness, but he's teaching them in the Gita. Why? Because Prabhupada says goodness is the launching pad. From the mode of goodness, we can take the plane to the spiritual world. Right? Just like we see that devotees who are established in goodness, even if they have some trouble in their spiritual life, they fall to the mode of goodness. So then they come back up again. But those who are accustomed to bad habits, when they fall, then they may fall ignorance, passion, like this. So the whole scriptures is filled with dharma. But we must remember the goal of dharma. That is the problem. When we do ethics for the sake of ethics, that's not pleasing to Krishna. Just like say, Sang Siddhir Haritoshanam. The success of an activity is known by how pleased Krishna is. So we are ethical to please Krishna. Just like we were saying that devotee may be ethical just to set an example for others, and by this also to preach by his example. People say, oh, this man is so truthful, so ideal, and he's a devotee. So devotees must be very nice people. So we preach by our example. And in the beginning, we have to connect with people on their level. So they see, this person, very honest, very ethical. Right? So we'll stop here.
हरे कृष्णा, धन्यवाद। तो मैं हिंदी बोल रहा हूँ। तो यहाँ पर अजामिल जो पश्चाताप कर रहा है, क्योंकि उसका हृदय शुद्ध हो गया है। और विष्णुदूतों ने इसी बात पर जोर दिया था कि भगवान के नाम की ऐसी महिमा है कि ये व्यक्ति अब जो है नरक में नहीं जा सकता, नरक में जाने लायक नहीं है। क्योंकि जैसे प्रभु जी ने बताया कि नरक में ले जाने का उद्देश्य यही होता है कि व्यक्ति अपने पश्चाताप करे कि मैंने गलती की। और नरक में जो पापी लोग होते हैं, उनको जो यातनाएं दी जाती हैं, तो चिल्ला चिल्ला करके अपना दोष बताते हैं। नरक में वे जो है जोर जोर से चिल्ला चिल्ला करके बताते हैं, जबकि यहाँ पर वो दादागिरी करता है और अपनी गलती नहीं मानता, दूसरों को गलत बताता है। और नरक में वो चिल्ला चिल्ला करके बताता है कि मैंने ये किया, मैंने वो किया, मैंने अपना दोष बताता है। और विष्णुदूत कहते हैं कि अजामिल नहीं जा सकता। क्यों? क्योंकि अब इसको जो है पश्चाताप होगा, क्योंकि शुद्ध हो गया। तो जब व्यक्ति शुद्ध हो जाता है तो वो भगवान के शुद्ध भक्त बनने का जो है वो अपना सामान्य ये जीवन समझता है। भगवान का शुद्ध भक्त बनना सामान्य जीवन है। और मैंने कितना गर्हित किया वो फिर निंदा करता है। तो वो अपना एक सामान्य स्थिति मानता है कि धार्मिक बनना और शुद्ध बनना वो सामान्य स्थिति उसकी बन गई, क्योंकि वो इतने शुद्धि के स्तर पर आ गया है कि वो जो है फिर ये स्वाभाविक है कि उसे जो है बड़ी ग्लानि होगी अपने अंदर, उसको बड़ी नफरत होगी कि मैंने ये कार्य किए। और श्रीमद् भागवत में ऐसे बहुत से उदाहरण हैं। जैसे परीक्षित महाराज हैं, वो पश्चाताप करते हैं। तो समीक ऋषि के गले में मरा सर्प डाला। उस समय बहुत सोच रहे थे कि वो कुछ गलत तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, और अपनी ओर से उन्होंने गलती नहीं की, क्योंकि राजा का कर्तव्य है कि कोई व्यक्ति अगर ध्यान का ढोंग करता है, दिखावा करता है, तो परीक्षा करे, उसको दंड दे। और उन्होंने पानी मांगा, वो पानी नहीं दे रहे हैं, तो शायद ये जो है दिखावा कर रहे हैं ध्यान का। तो मरा हुआ सर्प डाला, तो परीक्षा करना आवश्यक था। लेकिन जब पता चल गया उनको कि नहीं, इनको ध्यान तो सच्चा है, तो वो पश्चाताप करने लगे कि मैंने बहुत बड़ा अपराध किया। इसी प्रकार से माता देवहूति भी पश्चाताप करती हैं। निर्विण्णा नितरा भूमन असत इंद्रिय तर्षणात्, कि इंद्रियों की जो है तृप्ति के द्वारा मैंने जो है अपना जीवन बहुत बर्बाद किया। इस प्रकार से भगवान कपिल देव के सामने आती हैं और जिज्ञासा करती हैं, तत्व की जिज्ञासा करती हैं। महाराज पुरूरवा हैं, वो भी पश्चाताप करते हैं। उर्वशी के पीछे जो है वो नग्न होकर के भाग रहे हैं, है ना। तो फिर उनको अपने अंदर बड़ी ग्लानि हुई कि मैं कहाँ राजा, कहाँ सम्राट, पूरी पृथ्वी का राजा, और मेरी इतनी दुर्दशा हो गई कि मैं नग्न होकर के एक स्त्री के पीछे भाग रहा हूँ। तो इस प्रकार से जो है ये श्रीमद् भागवत में बहुत तरह के पश्चाताप हैं कि कोई व्यक्ति पश्चाताप करे, और ये उसकी स्वाभाविक स्थिति होती है कि वो पश्चाताप करे। तो इसलिए विष्णुदूत कहते हैं कि नाम के द्वारा ये जो है करोड़ों जन्मों के प्रायश्चित तो उसने कर ही लिए, लेकिन साथ साथ पश्चाताप, नाम की शक्ति इतनी है कि वो केवल पापों को नहीं मिटाता है नाम, बल्कि व्यक्ति के हृदय के अंदर जो पाप करने की वासना है, भोगों की वासना है, वो खत्म हो जाती है। और जब वो खत्म हो जाती है तो फिर वो जो पाप करने की जो बातें हैं उनसे उसको बड़ी नफरत होती है। वो जो है फिर थूकता है उस चीज़ पर, बहुत उसको नफरत होती है, तो वो स्वाभाविक होती है। और यहाँ बताया गया कि क्षण भर का क्षण संज्ञेन साधुषु इति जात सुन निर्वेदा, 39वां श्लोक है कि उसको निर्वेद जो हुआ, अजामिल को पश्चाताप हुआ, तो कैसे हुआ? क्षण संज्ञेन साधुषु, 4 मिनट की संगति साधुओं की, उसको 4 मिनट की संगति मिली तो उसको निर्वेद हुआ। तो निर्वेद पश्चाताप ये जो है स्वाभाविक है अगर आप जो है शुद्धि के धरातल पर आ जाते हैं, और ये जो है बहुत तेजी से शुद्धि होती है भगवान के नाम के द्वारा। और जब आपको पश्चाताप होता है तभी आप समझिए कि हाँ आप शुद्ध हुए हैं। और अगर आपको पश्चाताप नहीं होता, ठीक है जो हुआ वो भी ठीक है, जो हुआ सो ठीक हुआ। तो आजकल गीता सार में ही सिखाते हैं, बाजार में मिलता है जो हुआ सो ठीक हुआ। तो ये सब जो है अज्ञान है, ये गीता सार नहीं है ना। तो ऐसा तो गधा भी सोचता है जो हुआ सो ठीक हुआ, तो गधे का भी यही ज्ञान है। गीता सार नहीं है ये, है ना। तो जब आप जो है ऐसे शुद्धि के धरातल पर आते हैं तो स्वाभाविक रूप से आपको जो है अपने अंदर बड़ी वेदना होगी, अंतर्ग्लानि होगी और पश्चाताप होगा। हरे कृष्णा। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
श्रील प्रभुपाद की, गौर भक्त वृंद की।